Welcome to another episode of the Part 145 EASA training from Phoenix Way Academy. Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, and I'm Sam.
Well, in this deep dive, we're going to cover the topic of 145.A.50, 145.A.50 certification of maintenance. This is quite a chunky topic, so it'll probably take us about 3 sessions to get through it all.
Yeah, it's a big one. And today we're really plunging into what I think is, well, the absolute cornerstone of aviation safety. It's that critical moment when an aircraft or component gets officially signed off after maintenance. It's, the ultimate moment of truth. So our mission here is really to give you a direct, clear path to understanding the exact requirements. What does this certification of maintenance actually involve? We're drawing straight from the EASA regulations and their acceptable means of components.
Think of it as your shortcut, really, to truly grasping why that final signature is so much more than just, well, ink on paper. It's a rigorous, multi-layered verification process. It has to be.
Okay, let's get started then. Let's unpack this with the first pillar, which is 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause A. This really sets the foundation for everything else.
It does. This clause is central. It details when and how that certificate of release to service is issued.
Right. So what does it actually say?
Okay, well, it states, a certificate of release to service shall be issued by appropriately authorized certifying staff on behalf of the organization. So straight away, it's clear who can do this: only specific authorized people.
Appropriately authorized, yeah.
Exactly. And it continues. When that certifying staff has verified that all the maintenance that was ordered has been properly carried out by the organization. So the first check was all the ordered work done and done properly. Not just finished, but finished correctly.
Okay, properly carried out. What else?
Then it adds, in accordance with the procedures specified in point 145.A.70, 145.A.70. This means following the organization's own approved procedures, the ones in their maintenance organization exposition or MOE. You absolutely have to follow the book, their book.
Got it. MOE procedures. And number 3.
Number 3 is taking into account the availability and use of the maintenance data specified in point 145.A.45, 145.A.45. So, using the correct approved manuals, drawings, instructions, no making things up as you go along.
Right, no freelancing.
Definitely not. And finally, the crucial last bit, and that there are no known non-compliances which endanger flight safety.
Okay. No known non-compliances which endanger flight safety.
That sounds really important. So let's take a real-world example. Say a technician just replaced an aircraft wheel.
Right.
The certifying staff wouldn't just, glance at it and sign.
Absolutely not. They'd have to confirm step by step that the wheel was installed correctly. Was it torqued to the exact specifications from the maintenance manual? That's your 145.A.45 data.
Okay.
And did the technician follow the organization's specific wheel change procedure from their MOE, exactly as written?
Yeah.
That's the 145.A.70 part.
So it's like a full verification checklist.
Yeah.
It is. And then they have to consider that final phrase. Are there any known non-compliances related to this wheel change that could endanger flight safety? Only then can they issue the release.
That phrase, endanger flight safety, it feels a bit subjective. How do we actually define that? Is there guidance?
Yes, there is, thankfully. GM, that's guidance material, GM 145.A.50, 145.A.50, subclause A, gives us a much clearer picture.
Okay, what does the guidance say?
It clarifies that endanger flight safety means any instances where safe operation could not be assured or which could lead to an unsafe condition. So pretty broad, but then it gives examples.
Examples are always helpful.
Definitely. It says these typically include but are not limited to significant cracking, deformation, corrosion, or failure of primary structure, any evidence of burning, electrical arcing, significant hydraulic fluid or fuel leakage, and any emergency system or total system failure.
Wow. Okay, so major structural issues, leaks, system failures.
Exactly, and it adds one more. An airworthiness directive that is overdue for compliance is also considered to be a hazard to flight safety. It's not an exhaustive list, mind you, but it gives you a really tangible idea of the seriousness involved.
That's much clearer. But does this mean the maintenance organization, the Part 145 org, is suddenly responsible for the entire aircraft's condition every time they do a job? What if there's a hidden crack somewhere else they couldn't possibly know about?
That's a really important question, and the guidance addresses it directly. It says, the intent is not to require the maintenance organization to find or become responsible for hidden non-compliances which are not expected to be discovered during the ordered maintenance.
Ah, okay. So they're responsible for what they worked on and what they could reasonably find during that work.
Precisely. The GM continues. A certificate of release to service issued by a maintenance organization certifies that the performed maintenance work, as agreed in the work order or the contract, has been completed in accordance with the applicable requirements and the maintenance organization's approved procedures. It certifies the work done.
Right.
And here's the crucial distinction. In the case of aircraft maintenance, it does not necessarily mean that the aircraft is in airworthy condition.
It doesn't.
No. The guidance finishes. Ensuring that the aircraft is airworthy before each flight always remains the responsibility of the person or organization managing the aircraft continuing airworthiness. Usually that's the CAMO, the Continuing Airworthiness Management Organization.
Okay, so back to the wheel change example.
Yeah.
The certifying staff signs off that the wheel change was done perfectly according to all the rules.
Yes.
But they aren't certifying that, say, an engine AD that wasn't part of their job, it's compliant.
Yeah.
That bigger picture check belongs to the CAMO manager.
Exactly right. It's a very clear and necessary division of responsibility. Safety depends on everyone doing their part correctly.
That really clarifies things. So the key takeaway from this first part, 145.A.50 and its GM, is that the certifying staff's focus is laser sharp on the specific work performed. They guarantee it was done right, by the book, with approved data, and no known safety issues related to that work. Overall airworthiness, that's the CNO's job.
Well summarized.
So we've covered the what's of certification. Now let's move to the when and the how, the timing, and the actual content of the certificate. This is covered in 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause B, and it's remarkably short and to the point.
It is, isn't it? It simply states, a certificate of release to service shall be issued before flight at the completion of any maintenance.
Before flight, at completion. Can't get much clearer than that.
No ambiguity at all. It's about immediate compliance. That aircraft is not flying until the maintenance is signed off, period. It's the absolute final step for the maintenance org, the last gate before the aircraft can operate.
Like you said, that plane doing an overnight check isn't pushing back until that signature is in the logbook.
Precisely. It links the completion of work directly to the permission to fly.
But what actually needs to be on this certificate? It can't just be a signature, surely. There must be specific wording.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where AMC 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause B comes in the acceptable means of compliance. It spells out the exact statement required.
Okay, what's the magic phrase?
The certificate should contain this exact statement. Certifies that the work specified, except as otherwise specified, was carried out in accordance with Part 145, and in respect to that work, the aircraft-to-aircraft component is considered ready for release to service.
Right, that's very specific. In accordance with Part 145,
Yeah.
ready for release to service.
Exactly. And beyond that specific wording, the AMC says you also need to include reference to the EASA Part 145 approval number and the identity of the person who issued the release. So who did it and under what approval?
Makes sense. Traceability again.
Always. Now, there is an option for an alternate abbreviated certificate. You can just put Part 145 release to service.
Oh.
A shortcut. Sort of. But if you use the abbreviated version, the full statement must be included in the introductory section of the aircraft's technical log. So the full wording is always accessible.
Okay. No escaping the full statement then.
Not really. The AMC also adds that the certificate must relate to the task specified by whoever ordered the work, the STC holder, the operator, the maintenance program.
So it links back to the work order.
Yes. And crucially, the date the maintenance was done should reflect its impact on any life limits. Think date flying, hour cycles, landings, etc., as appropriate. You need to capture that context.
Right, for tracking time-limited parts or checks.
Exactly. And one more thing. If it was extensive maintenance, like a major check, the certificate can provide a summary. But it must have a unique cross-reference to the work package containing full details. All the nitty-gritty measurements and data need to be kept in that work pack record.
That sounds very thorough. So for our engine hot section inspection example, the certificate would have that exact wording. The organization's Part 145 number, the certifier's ID.
Correct.
The engine's hours and cycles at the time, and a clear reference like C work order number 12345, where all the detailed findings are recorded.
Precisely. It creates a complete, traceable record for that specific maintenance event and its implications.
So, boiling down 145.A.50B and its AMC, timing is critical before flight upon completion, and the content is rigidly defined: specific wording, approval details, clear link to the work, and impact on life limits. all vital for accountability.
Absolutely. It's the bedrock of ensuring maintenance actions are properly closed out and recorded.
Okay, but, maintenance doesn't always go exactly as planned. What happens if, during a job, a technician finds a new problem? Or maybe they can't finish everything that was originally ordered. That must happen sometimes.
It certainly does. And that's where 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause C comes into play. It lays out the process for these situations.
How does it handle unexpected findings or incomplete work?
It states, new defects or incomplete maintenance work orders identified during the maintenance shall be brought to the attention of the person or organization responsible for the aircraft continuing airworthiness. So that's typically the camo again. For the specific purpose of obtaining agreement to rectify such defects or completing the missing elements of the maintenance work order.
Okay, so step 1 is communication. Tell the camo.
Yes. And step 2 is crucial, obtaining agreement. The maintenance org can't just decide on their own to fix the new issue or skip the incomplete task. They need the camo's explicit approval on how to proceed.
They need the go-ahead from the people ultimately responsible for the aircraft's airworthiness.
Exactly. And the clause then adds, in the case where that person or organization declines to have such maintenance carried out under this point, point E is applicable. It directs you to another part of the regulation if the camo says no to the extra work right now.
So if a technician finds, say, a small fuel seep during a routine check, something not on the work order, they can't just fix it. Or, maybe worse, ignore it.
No, neither. They must stop, document it, inform the camo, describe the defect clearly, and get the camo's explicit instructions. Fix it now, defer it according to the rules, or some other agreed plan. The camo needs to make the call.
That makes total sense. Keeps everyone in the loop and ensures the right decisions are made. So what if the camo does decline the rectification? Maybe they want it done later or somewhere else. That's where subclause E kicks in.
Correct. 145.A.54A50 subclause E provides a way forward in that specific situation.
What does E allow?
It says, by derogation to point A, when the organization is unable to complete all maintenance ordered, it may issue a certificate of release to service within the approved aircraft limitations. So it's an exception, a derogation, to the rule that all ordered maintenance must be done first.
An exception, but with conditions, I assume.
Big conditions. The release can only happen within the approved aircraft limitations. This might mean the aircraft is restricted, perhaps only allowed a ferry flight, or maybe an item is deferred according to the minimum equipment list, MEL, if permissible. It has to be safe and legal to fly, even with the incomplete work.
Okay, within limitations.
And the absolutely critical part. The organization shall enter such fact in the aircraft certificate of release to service before the issue of such certificate. You must clearly state on the release certificate what work was not completed. Total transparency.
So, back to my example.
Right.
Major check, tool breaks. Can't finish one non-critical inspection.
Right.
If the operator's camo agrees and the aircraft can still fly safely under limitations, say ferry flight only,
then the maintenance organization can issue the CRS. But, and this is non-negotiable, they must write in block 12 of the certificate, or its equivalent, exactly which inspection wasn't completed. Everyone downstream has to know.
Understood. Clear documentation of deviations. Now, shifting focus slightly, what about components? Parts taken off the aircraft for work in a shop. How are they certified?
Ah, good question. That brings us to 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause D. This deals specifically with components maintained while off the aircraft.
And how does that work? Is it the same certificate?
Not quite. It says, a certificate of release to service shall be issued by appropriately authorized certifying staff after the maintenance has been carried out on a component whilst it was off the aircraft. But then it specifies the document. The authorized release certificate, EASA Form 1, referred to in Appendix 2 of Annex I, Part M, constitutes the component certificate of release to service.
The ES Form 1. Okay, so that's the standard release for components worked on off aircraft.
That's the primary one, yes. It acts like a component's passport. There are a couple of exceptions mentioned relating to specific points in Part M or Part ML, M.A.502 or M.L.A.502. But generally you expect a Form 1.
Any other exceptions?
Yes, one important one. When an organization maintains a component for its own use, the EASA Form 1 may not be necessary if the organization's internal release procedures in its MOE so provides.
For its own use, what does that mean?
Like, if a repair shop is overhauling a unit that's part of its own test equipment, or maybe for an aircraft they operate themselves purely for training within the organization, In those limited cases, their own internal MOE procedures for releasing that component might suffice, instead of issuing a formal EASA Form 1.
So if an airline sends a hydraulic pump to a specialist shop for overhaul, it comes back with an EASA Form 1.
Correct. That Form 1 certifies it's ready for installation.
But if that same shop overhauls an identical pump that they only use on their own non-commercial training rig, they might just use their internal sign-off procedure.
Exactly, provided their MOE allows for and details that internal procedure. It's about ensuring a controlled, documented release, whether internal or external.
Okay, let's dig into that EASA Form 1 a bit more. Is there guidance on its purpose and use?
Yes, AMC 1, 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause D gives more detail. It confirms the purpose: to certify maintenance work carried out on assembly items components parts. And importantly, it adds that it also allows the removal from aircraft of items in a serviceable condition in order to fit them to another aircraft-to-aircraft component.
So it's also used for moving serviceable parts between aircraft, like a roadable part tag.
Precisely. The AMC mentions its use for export-import and domestic purposes, serving as the official certificate from the maintenance org or manufacturer to the user. It also notes it can only be issued by approved organizations within their scope.
Right.
And it highlights a very important limitation. A certificate should not be issued for any item when it is known that the item is unserviceable. Generally, you don't put a Form 1 on a broken part.
Generally. Is there an exception?
Yes, there is. The AMC continues. Except in the case of an item undergoing a series of maintenance processes at several maintenance organizations approved under Part 145.
Ah, okay. So if a complex part needs work at Shop A, then testing at Shop B.
Exactly. In that case, Shop A can issue a Form 1, but they must include a clear statement of limitation, endorsed in Block 12. For instance, Shop A might write in Block 12, partial repair completed for further processing and final test by Shop B's details. This allows Shop B to accept the component for the next stage.
That makes sense. It maintains the chain of custody and work scope clearly.
It's all about transparency and control through the entire maintenance journey.
Okay, one last scenario under 145.A.50 for today. What about those really difficult situations and aircraft stuck on the ground, AOG, somewhere remote, because they can't get apart with the right paperwork immediately?
Ah, yes, the AOG at an outstation problem. That's covered by 145.A.50, 145.A.50 subclause F. This provides another critical derogation or exception.
An exception to what exactly?
It's a derogation from point A, the requirement for a full release to service before flight, and also from point 145.A.42, which deals with acceptance of components.
Okay, so what does this exception allow?
It allows an organization contracted for the maintenance to temporarily fit a component without the appropriate release certificate under very specific conditions.
What are those conditions? Sounds like it could be risky.
It's very tightly controlled. First, the aircraft must be grounded at a location other than the mainline station or main maintenance base. So, not at home base. Second, it must be due to the non-availability of a component with the appropriate release certificate. The correctly certified part just isn't there.
Okay, grounded, remote, no certified part available. Then what?
Then, the temporary fitment is allowed for a maximum of 30 flight hours or until the aircraft first returns to the mainline station or main maintenance base, whichever is the sooner. Strict time location limit.
30 hours or back to base, whichever happens first. Got it.
Crucially, this requires the agreement of the person or organization responsible for the aircraft's continuing airworthiness is. The CAMO must approve this temporary measure.
CAMO agreement is essential again.
Always. And the component being fitted, even without the final release certificate perhaps, must still have a suitable release certificate, meaning it should be traceable to an approved source and be the correct part number, etc. And it must comply with all applicable maintenance and operational requirements. You're not just fitting any old part.
So it's a known good part, just the final paperwork is missing or delayed.
That's the typical scenario, yes. Yeah. And finally, the regulation is crystal clear. Such components shall be removed by the time limit, unless an appropriate release certificate has been obtained in the meantime. There's no wiggle room. It's temporary.
Right. So an aircraft stuck in, say, Yellowknife with a failed fuel pump. A pump is flown in from Edmonton, known good, right part number,
yeah.
But the EASA Form 1 got delayed in transit.
Right.
With the airline's CAMO's explicit agreement, the local maintenance provider could fit that pump. The aircraft could then fly, say, back to its main base in Calgary, which is maybe 5 flight hours. Once in Calgary, they either need to have received the proper Form 1 for that specific pump by then, Or they must remove the pump and install one with full certification.
Exactly. It gets the aircraft out of a bind safely, but with a very clear deadline to regularize the situation.
That seems like a very practical but tightly controlled solution for a common operational headache.
It is. It balances operational necessity with maintaining safety oversight.
So wrapping up these sections, C, D, E, and F, it seems the regulations really do provide clear pathways for handling the messy realities of maintenance. New defects, incomplete work, component certification, even AOGs in remote places.
That's right. But the consistent theme is control. Communication with the camo, explicit agreements, strict documentation, transparency, and clear limitations or time limits when deviating from the standard process. Safety is never compromised.
It's a robust framework. Okay, just one final point for today's session. There's a specific reference for standard changes and standard repairs under AMC 145.A.50, 145.A.50.
Ah, yes, just a quick pointer, really.
It states AMC M.A.801, MA801, of the AMC to Part M and AMC1, AMC1 M.L.A.801, MLA801, of the AMC to Part ML contain acceptable means of compliance for the release to service of a SCSR by an organization approved in accordance with Part 145.
Yeah, this is basically just a signpost. It's telling you if you're dealing with the certification of maintenance after incorporating a standard change or standard repair, the specific guidance you need is over here in the AMCs for Part M or Part ML.
So it just points you to the right place in the wider EASA rule set.
Exactly. It reminds us that all these regulations are interconnected. You often need to look at multiple documents to get the full picture for specific situations like SCSRs.
Okay, great. So let's try and summarize the key takeaways from this first dive into 145.A.50. What are the absolute must-know points for you, our listeners?
Well, first and foremost, that certificate of release to service is the absolute final step, the guarantee for the specific maintenance performed. It confirms the work was done right, following procedures and using correct data. That signature carries real weight.
And it's issued by appropriately authorized certifying staff. Remember that definition of endangering flight safety.
Okay.
It's quite specific, but also that the maintenance org certifies their work, not necessarily the entire aircraft's hidden condition. Overall airworthiness is the camo's responsibility.
Timing is non-negotiable. Issue the certificate before flight and after completion. And the content is precise. That specific wording, the approval number, who issued it, details of the work, and how it affects any life limits. Traceability is paramount.
When things don't go to plan, new defects found, work incomplete. There are clear procedures. Communication with the camo and getting their agreement is absolutely essential before proceeding or issuing a limited release.
Components maintained off aircraft need that EASA Form 1. It's their passport. Understand its purpose, its limitations, and the special case for transferring between shops.
And finally, those exceptions for AOG aircraft at remote locations fitting temporary components. They exist, they're practical, but they come with very strict controls. Camo agreement, time limits, and documentation.
Ultimately, the incredible detail and precision in these regulations might seem complex, but they are what ensures the phenomenal safety record of aviation. Understanding 145.A.50, even just this first part, is fundamental to playing your part in that safety system. Every detail matters.
In the next episode, we will continue our exploration of 145.A.50, certification of maintenance.
Follow us on social media under the name Phoenix Way Academy.
Thanks for listening. Stay safe and stay informed.